Red Dead Redemption 3 will never happen.
What's up, cattle rustlers? This is the Plander Man here, and today I don't have a hot take for you. I got a sad take for you. I don't believe Rockstar can or should make a Red Dead Redemption 3.
What you say is heresy.
I can hear it now. I can hear it. The doubting. Oh, the doubting. What kind of nonsense is this, Act Man? I thought you loved these games. Don't you want to see more of them?
Well, it doesn't matter if you like or dislike this game, honestly. It's just the fact that Rockstar and EA tried, and no one was buying enough microtransactions in the online version of the game. GTA was absolutely shooting it out of the park, while Red Dead Redemption was absolutely struggling to make anyone buy any microtransactions. And just this alone, sadly, is enough to make it so that they are not interested in making the third installment of the game.
Yes, I do, but I also don't want it to be ruined. Red Dead can continue, but maybe the time for redemption is past. So today we'll be going over some of the more popular fan theories and ideas for a potential Red Dead Redemption 3, and why I don't think any of them would work or are good enough. And that's the sad reality.
Saying good enough is kind of strange here, because good enough depends on the writing. You can make almost any kind of Red Dead Redemption story, and it can be easily good enough if the writing is powerful enough.
But that's the way it is. It's easy to want more of a good thing. There's nothing wrong with that, and I'm not calling you a rat if you disagree with me. But you should definitely let me know in the comments what you think of these fan theories, and if you agree or disagree with me. I'm very interested to hear what people have to say.
Okay.
I have a few other RDR2 videos in the works. I'm still working on the main review, and I also have a deep dive into Dutch as a character coming out as well. But as I've been working on these videos,
The Act Man doing a deep dive on a character? No, I'm sorry. I don't even mean to be mean to the Act Man this time, even though I have absolutely no problems with doing that. But the Act Man is a certified moron. Without YouTube, he would be the guy who screws up your order in the McDonald's drive-thru. 2 times in a row, in fact. The Act Man is just not a smart man, okay? And if you're trying to do a review, a deep dive, even, of a character, I don't think he's up for the task. I would be surprised if he understands even the most above water motivations of a character. And, well, there's a bunch of reasons why he probably cannot do this. I watched him talk about the Halo TV series, and this is very telling when you talk about TV series, movies, or whatever. You should always, when talking about stuff like this, dive into character motivations, why they make sense, why they don't make sense, and what is the most likely thing that actually should happen if something doesn't make sense with the character and their actions based on the world that they are in. And Act Man did not do any of that. He just talked about the basic premises, what happened. He didn't actually get into the nitty-gritty of characters, which is very telling, because if you're talking about series and movies and whatnot, it's actually really hard to not dive into the characters and their motivations and why things make or do not make sense in certain situations. But he completely did not do this. So how the hell is he gonna actually do a deep dive in a character and their motivations? I'm not sure. I have not played even Red Dead Redemption. I have heard good things about it, and what I have seen I have liked. But well, we're gonna probably watch what the Act Man does in that deep dive, and it's gonna be funny if we can disprove it by even not playing the game.
and re-experiencing the story, I've been trying to find a good idea, a good concept for RDR3, and I just can't. It's nearly fucking impossible, and I'm gonna give you the reasons why. Also, spoilers for these two gems, just be aware. First, let's figure out what is absolutely essential to have in a Red Dead Redemption 3, so we can cull all the ideas that are simply out of the question. Well, like most of Rockstar's games, we need a protagonist who can function in the role of an anti-hero, because we need to have the freedom to be a merciless outlaw, kill people, rob banks, and eat babies. Also, we have to stick with the cowboy western setting. I doubt many fans are going to want to play a Red Dead Redemption game set in World War I or some.
Yeah, I don't think that's really a problem for a Red Dead Redemption game to just stick to the cowboy aesthetic. You see what I mean? Like, why would you even say, oh, they can't move away? Oh, no one's even thinking about moving away from the cowboy stuff when we're talking about the next game. How do you even say that with a straight face?
Shit.
Oh, I hope that Red Dead Redemption 3 is not 3,000 billion years in the future, where humanity has evolved into these bipedal squid-like octopuses and are fighting space flowers. Yeah, that's probably not happening.
Unless we do. Wait a minute. We could do cowboys and aliens. Oh. But the setting
That
of
was
the Wild
already
West
done,
and the
yeah.
American frontier has limitless potential, so there are plenty of stories waiting to be told. But if we're going to put redemption in the title, then the game would have to fit that theme. A Red Dead Redemption game without the redemption would be like Resident Evil without the Resident Evil. Rockstar could make a Red Dead game without the redemption title. They did it once before, but given the success of the first two games, this might make it harder to market, and brand recognition is kind of the king in the world of business. But with
Okay, that's already wrong. Rockstar can make Red Dead Redemption 3. There can literally be no even slightest hint of redemption, okay? You can eat baby after baby. And the marketing would not suffer from that because they can just, they're showing you the fun parts of it. They're showing you the action scenes and things like that. And people would not even know that. So that would not be a problem for the marketing at all.
without any restrictions on our creativity, let's think about potential ideas. There are still plenty of questions that could be answered, but should they? So we really only have two options as far as a setting is concerned. We could have a prequel or sequel. The games take place between 1899 and 1914. We kind of want to stick in that time period. I suppose the next game could be set so it runs alongside these games, but then it'd just feel like we're rehashing what we already have. Let's say you want 3 to be a prequel, but if you take Red Dead and go too far into the past, there we are with muskets, and it's not a lot of fun. It's kind of why Battlefield 1 introduced automatic weapons, even though they weren't really a thing in World War I, because it makes the game more fun. But Red Dead Redemption really emphasizes the realism. Yeah, maybe we do another prequel where we play as Hosea and we fight in the Civil War. I call this idea Red Dead Emancipation.
Oh, that would not be bad because, okay, listen, there's a thing about wars. And that thing is that people don't want to participate in them. There's a lot of people who do not want to participate in wars, believe it or not. And, well, you can easily actually go into a USA civil war setting without any problems, and your antagonist is protagonist or whatever it wants to be is not a part of the army. In fact, maybe they're running away from the army. Maybe they're an outlaw that needs to navigate all the things that are happening and whatnot. There can be many options. Again, a civil war type of deal is probably not what the fans want, obviously, because that's not cowboyish enough, but at the same time, again, as a premises, there's no reason why it wouldn't work. All of these premises, even 3 billion years into the future where everyone's bipedal squid fighting space flowers, can work if the writing is just good enough. So, does the Actman think that the setting is more important than the writing? Or is there something else happening here? You see what I mean? McDonald's and a failure?
Let's say you want 3 to be a sequel, go too far into the future, and it's no longer a game about the harsh life in the Wild West. It's no longer a cowboy game. Are we gonna play as Jack as he's conscripted into World War I in Red Dead Duty? So the setting doesn't leave a whole lot of wiggle room if we want to continue this story. RDR just hits the perfect sweet spot, like when—
But you can just continue the story like 1 year later or whatever. There's no problem with that probably, right? Why would that any of that be a problem? It's not like timeline and history-wise Red Dead Redemption 2 ends and oh shit, now it's the space age all of a sudden. No, it's still the cowboy age after it ends. Where's the I don't see this magical problem that he's creating that Red Dead Redemption can't be a cowboy game in the prequel or in the sequel. I completely don't understand this problem.
When I was born, I'm going to be one of the last generations that remembers what it was like to grow up without the internet. I can tell you what, there weren't many furries back in them days, boy howdy. Yeah.
It's making me cringe,
But these games take place during an amazing transitional period, the end of the Wild West, the dawn of civilization and order, the death of the outlaw. One of the most important themes of
So, effectively, what, the beginning of the industrial age, he's essentially pointing out? Okay, just make it, almost the beginning. Again, I don't see how this is a problem.
the games is learning to let the past die, to move on and accept things that cannot be changed. This theme is something you could apply to the continuation of Red Dead Redemption as a series. But the theme has been greatly explored across these two games, and there's really not much more to say about it or add to the existing characters. And yet this theme is so integral to the narrative of Red Dead Redemption, it's hard to imagine a third game that doesn't explore the end of the Wild West. Maybe the next game takes place during the prime of the Wild West, but I think that'd be less interesting. The point is, the setting is difficult.
Why? If your argument is that the game now needs to be either something before Cowboys or after Cowboys, and now you're just saying,
well, it could be also the prime of the Wild Wild West.
why is that also? I completely don't get it. I completely don't understand the problem here.
To pin down. But with all that said, let's jump into our first real idea.
Okay.
Red Dead 3 should be a sequel that stars Jack Marston as the protagonist. You really want to play as a fucking bookworm nerd? No, I'm just kidding. Of the 8 surviving members of the Van der Linde gang, Jack is the most obvious choice of protagonist. Unless, of course, they were to retcon Uncle's death so that he just like faked it, or maybe we could go for like a my heart wasn't actually in my chest thing. Then we could play as Uncle. Write that down, write that down! No, it'd have to be Jack. Everyone else is dead, or their story is finished, or their story should be kept vague. But how would you continue Jack's story? And that was the...
Wait, why? So we have characters whose stories are not finished, but they have to be kept vague? Why?
day
Okay, I admit there's maybe I actually need to play the game to understand that point, but still sounds a little bit like, why?
Jack Marston stopped being a fucking dork and decided to follow in my father's footsteps to become an outlaw.
I want to be a gunslinger when I grow up.
Over my dead
Smart.
body.
In this dying Wild West. No, get that shit out of here. Playing as Jack, I feel, would spit in the face of what these games are about. How would you actually give Jack a redemption arc without ruining the ending of the first game? You can't. In RDR2, Arthur Morgan finds redemption through selfless acts and sacrifice. The life of an outlaw has literally poisoned him, and he uses his last months alive to try and become a good man and to do the right thing. He gives the people around him a chance to escape a horrible fate and live a normal life. In RDR1, John Marston redeems himself by stepping up as a father, protecting his family, and leaving his past as an outlaw. In fact, he works with sheriffs, governments, revolutionaries, law enforcement, all sorts of authorities to stabilize and bring order to an area the Van der Linde gang had devastated. After John's death, Abigail dies 3 years later. With nothing left to lose, Jack goes to get revenge on the man responsible, Edgar Ross. When the deed is done, Jack looks at his pistol, like he's thinking about throwing it into the river. But then he holsters it, because Jack is going to use that pistol in the future. That's the message. We don't need to see Jack Marston following
Okay, so far it kind of seems right, but if that's the message, he kind of didn't look at the pistol for a long time, Dad.
in the footsteps of his dad, Dutch, or Arthur. Why?
Because of the implication.
The implication that he does follow in their footsteps and will meet the same fate is way more powerful. It's shown to us without words. We understand without being told. The cycle will continue. Revenge is a fool's game, and the only way to save yourself is to let the past die and to move forward. So what redemption is there for Jack? What does he have to redeem? The sins of his father or the Vanderlyn gang? Everybody already paid for that with their lives. Now remember.
Okay, yeah, you see what I'm talking about? Above water motivations. Nice. Okay. Well, doesn't need to be more than that sometimes, to be honest, but yeah, this is all above water currently.
Remember that you typically have some agency over the events, right? As John, you don't have to kill any of your former gang members. But when you play as Jack, you have to kill Edgar Ross. You don't have a choice because Jack doesn't have a choice. Jack has nothing to redeem. He's the ultimate victim of the Red Dead Redemption story. Despite their best efforts, neither Arthur or John could save him from the cycle of revenge and violence that led to their demise. I feel like Marvel has ruined people's brains when it comes to...
Yeah, I need to actually see this, otherwise it kind of sounds a little bit like, oh, you killed my dad. Well, I'm out on a revenge ploy because of that.
Good narrative story.
Also, just the way he's talking about it. Okay, I'm now thinking about what he said, throwing the revolver into the water or whatever, like right here or something like that. The way he's just talking about it, I kind of get the feeling that the character motivation here, and when he finally does what he set out to do, it's not, oh, I'm gonna throw the revolver into the sea. He looks at this and is like, this changed nothing. This was pointless. I achieved nothing. Currently seems more like the thing that is happening here. He understands that revenge was futile, not that he's, oh, I'm gonna throw it into the sea. You know, because this is not the Wild West where people get murdered all the time. Also, he has a gun right here, so, he probably should throw that also in. The way he's talking about it and explaining things, this more like seems like an understanding of the futility of your own actions. That what you set out to achieve was just pointless. And that at the end, even though you achieved it, there's no closure in it.
The good narrative story.
Yep.
Have a choice. Jack has nothing to redeem. He's the ultimate victim of the Red Dead Redemption story.
Oh yeah, actually, yeah, that's exactly the sentence. Because he said this, yeah, it's like...
Despite their best efforts, neither Arthur or John could save him from the cycle of revenge and violence that led to their demise. I feel like Marvel has ruined people's brains when it comes to good narrative storytelling and analyzing it. It's like people forget that stories are supposed to end. They're supposed to be a page one and a final page. But we've been led to believe that if a series keeps making money, then the story keeps going. Until it's...
Wait, what? No, this is one of the things that people are pissed about Marvel. Actually, like, one of the main things. Oh, there's always a villain above the villain. There's always the super villain of the villains. And stuff like that. No. If anything, Marvel has shown us the opposite. Not that stories shouldn't end. It's the fact that stories need to end.
It's eventually ruined, of course. Now, some people might say, but Actman in GTA 5, you can find...
After Avengers Endgame Part 2, who the hell wanted a Part 3 Avengers Endgame, the Re-Avengering? No one! No one!
In a book called Red Dead that says Jay Marston as the author. Jack doesn't become an outlaw. He just killed Ross, was never captured, grew old, and became a writer. I'm sorry, but that ending fucking sucks. That's what Jack wanted to be, not what he became. Also, these are two separate universes, right? We don't need an RCU. I think this book is just a nice reference and Easter egg. And it's for these reasons I think having Red Dead Redemption 3 be a sequel that stars Jack Marston is a terrible idea. Jack embracing the life of an outlaw instead of that of a writer is poetically tragic. It's perfect. And the only thing that can ruin perfection is adding imperfection. So let's leave.
But again, if we go through my route that he understands the futility of his actions, and he has no meaning, Red Dead Redemption 3 can be him literally starting the series and saying, I finally, after all these trials, all the things I had to do, found the person responsible for ruining my life. And then I killed him. And at that moment, nothing changed. I didn't feel better. My life was not granted back to me. The dead didn't come back to life, and that's it. And now he is in search of a purpose in life. That could be a pretty decent story easily if you write it correctly. Everything depends on just making the story actually, not trash.
Leave Jack's story where it is.
Our time has passed, John.
Idea number 2, RDR3 should be a prequel that shows the formation of the Vanderlyn gang.
By the way, again, I haven't played this game, but I look at this dude right here. Where is he?
Jack's story where it is.
Our time.
I look at this guy and I can already tell you this is the trope of the old man getting left behind by the times, and he is trying everything in his power to not let the world change around him in desperation. Am I right?
Idea number 2, RDR3 should be a prequel that shows the formation of the Vanderlyn gang, ending with the Blackwater massacre. You might...
But then there's no redemption. It's just a story about a dude getting corrupted.
disagree with me when I say this, but when I'm done saying it, you will agree with me. The Blackwater massacre should never be shown. Absolutely not.
You don't want to do that either. You think you do, but you don't.
Let me ask you.
The irony of using that scene is the irony of using this is the fact that he was completely wrong.
Think you do, but you don't.
Let me ask you a philosophical question. Why do we have puzzles? What is it about the human condition that made us want to create puzzles for other people to solve? Because human beings inherently seek answers. We are curious about the unknown. It's part of our DNA. So what's more fulfilling, being told the answer to a puzzle or figuring it out for yourself? Red Dead Redemption is intentionally vague about certain details. We don't need to see what happened in Blackwater for the same reasons that we don't need to be told who the strange man actually is. As a writer, what information you give to the audience is just as important.
Is the strange man the devil? Is the strange man the devil?
Important as what you leave out, what you leave to the imagination. It's far more interesting for Blackwater to remain vague than it is to explicitly spell it out for us.
What really went down back there on that boat? We missed you. That's what happened.
Because when you talk to characters that were there, you have the element of an unreliable narrator.
Blackwater was about surviving, John.
Not for that girl, it weren't. You okay? I was on that boat. I saw what Dutch and Micah did, but he won't admit it.
Nobody really gives you the full picture, so it's literally up to the player to piece together what really happened, and even then the puzzle isn't complete. It's because all the questions aren't answered that this event is, like, mythological. People desperately...
Okay, judging from everything, I agree with him on this one, though. Whatever Blackwater is, which seems like just a ship massacre, that probably does not need to be resolved because the mystique set around it is already good enough and great enough. It is an established point that does not need explanation because you can fill all the gaps that you want yourself if you have questions.
want to know exactly what happened, and that's what makes it interesting. And because everybody you talk to about it avoids giving explicit details, you as the player get the vibe that this was an event, this was an experience that nobody wants to relive in their minds. The idea that it was so horrible nobody even wants to imagine it is more powerful than whatever Rockstar could come up with. But also, Dutch kills a woman in cold blood in a bad way in Red Dead 1, so you can kind of infer what it was like. So for me, showing the Blackwater Massacre in a Red Dead Redemption 3 is completely out of the question, which begs a new question: what would be an appropriate climax for Red Dead Redemption 3? and I can't really think of one. I've also heard the idea that maybe Dutch could be the protagonist.
Well, no shit, you can't. You can't even figure out the setting.
And we could watch him as he forms the gang. To that I ask, do you want a prequel to Dark Souls, Grey Souls? Do you want to see how Gwyn became the Lord of Cinder and why he linked the first flame?
Yes. I think the answer to that is a resounding yes.
If you have any self-respect, your answer should be no.
Why?
The idea of playing as Dutch is wrong.
Why? Why? These are very good questions that a lot of people would love answers to. It would be great. It would actually explain a lot of things in the world and whatnot, and give reasoning to a bunch of things. It would be great. What the fuck?
On so many levels. First off, he's not a character that we should have any agency or control over. That's why the gang fell apart, because nobody could control Dutch and keep him from going crazy. So how would you implement an honor system if you played as Dutch? Dutch didn't have any honor. And second, our 3 playable characters have established a pattern in that we don't know their ultimate fate until the very end. Arthur Morgan was likely created and made the star of Red Dead 2 specifically for this reason, so we could play as a character whose story we don't already know. It's why Arthur's...
Okay, so what's the problem making Red Dead Redemption 3 about someone also you do not know and he just gets his own storyline? Where's the problem in that?
journey ends in chapter 6 and John's begins in the epilogue. They closed the book. It's a book. They closed it. There's not much more to do. And here's the thing, the games can be played
So don't do anything else there, I guess.
in either order. So if you play 2 first, you still don't know what happens to John. We know Dutch's fate, and we can't exert any control over it or change anything about it like we could with Arthur. So there's no point. Not to mention, we already know Dutch's life story. We know it from start to finish, pretty much. To make a game where we see even more of that, you wouldn't be reinventing the wheel. You'd be breaking it.
Ah, I broke the goddamn wheel.
And I get it. People love the fuck out of these games and these characters, and they just want to find a reason to look forward to a new game. I get it. I want more Halo games set between Halo 1 through 3. But to understand why you like something so much, you need to look at it from a writer's perspective. What is best left to the audience's imagination? If you as a writer explicitly answer all the questions, then what's left for your audience to talk about?
The stuff that happened and why it happened, and could there be different outcomes? Answering all the questions as a writer is not bad. In fact, that's typically the good outcome, because there's a lot of questions typically that need to be answered, and not answering them is bad because people want answers. What? Do you actually fucking think that there should be made stories that literally don't answer a single question? Let's take Dark Souls, for example. There are almost no given, lore explanations for everything in universe of what happened. 99% of the game is literally people need to piece together what Dark Souls lore is.
Nothing. Because you've done the
And they want answers for it.
job for us. You've filled in all the blanks, given us all the facts, and made no room for error or
Both possibilities are good, but the idea that he just thinks that, answering all questions is bad. No!
interpretation. You can see the genius in this type of writing. I'll give you an example. Let's look at Micah. While most people would agree he was a rat working with the Pinkertons trying to sell the gang out, Micah never admits this himself. We never find hard evidence he was working with the Pinkertons. No letter like, "Hey, Agent Milton, how you doing, buddy?" And we don't have any flashback scenes to show Micah meeting with Milton. So because there's this tiny crack in the door, there's this sliver of doubt, we have something to talk about and interpret. Somebody could play devil's advocate and say, no, Micah wasn't a rat. But, you know, it's heavily implied that Micah is the rat. They literally have a rat run out of the house before Micah comes out. It's implied, not directly stated. Seeing how the gang was formed is far less interesting than how it fell apart. So a game set during this time period would feel wildly anticlimactic. We already know how the gang formed and why. Dutch was a manipulative idealist with a silver tongue who recruited and convinced people to join him, people who were at their weakest point. They were outcasts, wanted by the law, targets of discrimination, orphan children, alcoholics with crippling back issues, and the undisputed love of my life, Sadie Adler. Dutch is a man who preyed on the weak and only really cared about people as far as he could manipulate and inspire loyalty.
That's a really good bad guy though. That is a solid set for a bad guy. Okay, that is a really solid set for a bad guy though.
In them. We don't need an origin story to explain this. Showing the origin of the gang would be superfluous because we already know everything. And yeah, you may have to look for those chunks of the story, but it's there. I mean, Red Dead 2 is not a short video game, and that's what makes it fun to experience. You know, all those camp conversations that are easily missed, you have to piece all that together. I haven't heard a good enough idea for Red Dead Redemption 3 that doesn't just start with making it completely disconnected from the two games we have and starting fresh. But if that's what they're gonna do, then what's the point of adding redemption? If they call it Red Dead Redemption 3...
Didn't we establish at the start of the video that the redemption just means that someone needs to be redeemed? Did we not? Didn't we establish that this word doesn't have any superfluous meaning beyond the character gets redeemed? I think we did.
And it has nothing to do with the first two games, then that's just Black Ops 3 all over again. It's a sequel in name only because of brand recognition. And by the way, I don't want people to stop brainstorming these ideas. And I might sound like a party pooper, but come on, fellas. We have to
be practical now.
Also, this fucking Reddit comment. You could literally make the main character Molly O'Shea and it would still be a masterpiece. You see, I feel like people are just desperate for more from this series because they love it so much. Here's the third and final idea.
Yeah, but the microtransactions are not selling well enough. It is what it is.
Yeah. Red Dead Redemption 3 should be a prequel that stars Landon Ricketts. Now, I myself am a...
Okay, I'm done.
Well, Actman, you've shot down...
What is Actman's great idea? Is he gonna just say, I have none?
All these ideas, you best have one that's good enough yourself, do you?
Yeah?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Oh,
and it won't ever be made either. Undead Nightmare 2, I rest my case. Hashtag, fuck it.
That was the Actman. Was it said 7? Bye.